I want to thank you, Gabe, for the gracious intro you gave of me earlier. There are those here who know me IRL, in real life, in person, yeah? Dr. Laurel and Queen Nan from the realm of Owl, Lee and Carla from Faith Action and Cash Bail Reform, Catherine from SATBQ and Buy Nothing Oahu, among other places. Gabe and I were blessed to work together at Church at the Crossroads. That was a lot of fun. For those friends that I haven't met yet, that's not everybody, okay, but that's like all I'm going to say. For the friends that I haven't met yet or worked to transform the world with yet, you may know me from Gabe's intro or stalking me on the internet or happens, or word of mouth, yeah? I mean, there are stories that are told. There are stories that are told. I'm going to give you, by way of self-intro for today, a bit of a confession. I was raised by Midwesterners. Folks influenced by the values and the reality of the Great Plains, actually, Kansas, the flat part of Kansas. I was also brought up in church, yeah? And church and my Midwestern family taught me to be a diligent worker and self-sacrificing and to fix, my parents didn't teach this, but my church did, to fix everything I could fix. Yeah? Actually, Dad did. He said, he pointed to the Kaiser, those cement mixing trucks, because on the side it said, find a need and fill it. Yeah, some of you remember. I was taught to jump into everything, feet first and all the way up to my neck. If can, do. And I didn't critique what I'd been taught. Not nearly enough. Because if that's the only part being taught, that is terribly one-sided. Yeah, leads to self-sacrifice to the point of mental and physical exhaustion. How many here, don't have to raise your hands if you don't want to, how many of you here recognize that reality of doing and being, especially for others, to the point of exhaustion? For me, the pandemic put a halt to that, not terribly unexamined, but unchanged pattern. Yeah? I lost my job in the middle of the pandemic. And so my sleep patterns changed and my entertainment patterns changed and my obviously going out not changed. What I am willing to give myself to changed. The BS, I know we don't swear here, but that's an abbreviation. The BS I'm willing to put up with, especially from church people, that changed. Yeah, what bullying I am willing to ignore, especially in church, that changed. What petty, inconsequential arguments I'm willing to allow into my headspace, that changed. I am not lifting up that first model as like the model, because it's one-sided and lopsided and doesn't cause balance or joy, although I like changing the world. It really doesn't cause ultimate joy in life. On the contrary, I'm acknowledging that much of how I've been formed by all the cultures I've been immersed in have not been in my best interest, primarily, and actually not in the best interest of those around me and much of the wider world. Now, it's not just me, right? You all are immersed in cultures. USA, North American culture, Hawaii culture, church culture. Angel Gabriel introduced me by mentioning my Facebook posts. Many of them are public. Have fun. We could talk about the influence of culture just by using memes and posts from Facebook. Yeah? One member of this church posted this week, a woman can wake up, get the kids ready for school or daycare, drop them off, head to work, walk in with the hugest smile on her face, get the day's work completed, get off, pick up the kids, cook dinner, get the kids ready for bed, all the while going through one of the worst times in her life. If that isn't strength, I don't know what is. Women are truly phenomenal. Let me suggest that we are called to critique things that on the surface appear to be uplifting and empowering. Because the supermom model, with which I am intimately familiar, is deadly. And is perpetuated even by well-meaning folk, myself included. Not all of those Facebook posts that Angel Gabriel mentioned are perfect. Well, maybe none of them are, because, that's the world. But they get at a thing, yeah? So I wrote so many things that I'm trying to figure out what order they go in. This is my curse, right? I always wrote essays that were about 18 pages too long, and then went to someone and said, help, and she said, oh, not the usual problem, blank pages. It's organization and focus. Here's another quote from Dr. Craig Nathanson, whoever that is, who is being circulated on Facebook. People gain their self-esteem from work. Did the warning bells go off? Work takes up the majority of one's life. The contributions we make, the feedback we receive, the new opportunities all contribute to our self-esteem. When people feel good about their work, they communicate better, establish better working relationships, and feel more positive. When people are not treated fairly, they hold back ideas and don't help their peers as much, and sometimes might even have negative things to say to customers about where they work. All this is bad for the business. Do you see? Some of that's true. If you like the work you're doing and the people you're working with, you communicate better, more honestly, more openly. You provide helpful insights. However, if your self-esteem is tied up in your work, there's some stuff missing. Hey, even our ancestors in faith, the Pirkei Avot, the ancient fathers, the Hebrew tradition. The day is short and there is much to be accomplished. You do not have to complete the work, but you are not excused from doing it. If not now, when? Yes, I've had that plastered on my mirror in my life, right? You're not exempt. Do it. Even the scholars have gotten into it. I found this wonderful advertisement in one of my emails recently. Quote, work, pray, code. When work becomes religion in Silicon Valley. A webinar that I will not be attending. Not going down that rabbit hole. All right, perhaps the whole root of our trouble, says James Baldwin, the human trouble, is that we will sacrifice all the beauty of our lives. We'll imprison ourselves in totems, taboos, crosses, blood sacrifices, steeples, mosques, races, armies, flags, nations, in order to defy and deny the fact of death, which is the only fact we have. It seems to me that one ought to rejoice in the fact of death, ought to decide, indeed, to earn one's death by confronting with passion, the conundrum of life. One is responsible to life. It is the small beacon in that terrifying darkness from which we come and to which we will return. One must negotiate this passage as nobly as possible for the sake of those who are coming after us. Some of the wise and pithy sayings that are out there and find their way to us are gentler and kinder than others. Sister Chun Kong says, if we just worry about the big picture, we are powerless. So my secret is to start right away doing whatever little work I can do. I try to give one joy to one person in the morning and remove one suffering of one person in the afternoon. If you and your friends do not despise the small work, 1 million people will remove a lot of suffering. That's a start. Start now. Henry David Thoreau says, good for the body is the work of the body, and good for the soul is the work of the soul, and good for either is the work of the other. Oh, we're getting at balance here. Shauna Nyquist says, what kills a soul? Exhaustion, secret keeping, image management. And what brings a soul back from the dead? Honesty, connection, and grace. And my favorite from this weekend was posted last evening from a friend who said, I don't understand people who do things on the weekends. You just did things all week. What's next? More things? That's how they get you. Have you heard this? The universe doesn't give you more than you can handle. Just calling it out as a lie right here, right now. We are constantly exposed to, bombarded with. I don't like military imagery. All right, work on a better metaphor for me. Messages like these, right? And what's our takeaway? What's our takeaway? To be better than we were yesterday, but to be better by doing more. Doing, not being. Doing more, being better. Two different things. Two very different things. This is the anniversary of 9/11, September 11th, 2001. Twin Towers, Pentagon, and that fourth plane aimed at Washington, D.C. And in the intervening time, we could name the things which burden us, get at our gut about what's happening in the world. Yeah? War and flood and famine and fire and mistrust and evil deeds. So much gets at us. It's exhausting. Doing the right thing during the pandemic. Oh, that was exhausting. And irritating, right? Because not everybody was doing the right thing. Yeah? So how much more in our tummies and our bodies were we grinding because we were doing the right thing and our neighbors weren't, or that person at the gas station? Yes, right? Yes. Over and over and over in our heads. Keeping track of all the stuff, yeah? The sexism and the racism and the homophobia and the extremist political agendas and a host of other systemic evils. And then minding our mouths, well, sometimes using the right words, the nuanced words, the thoughtful words, the uplifting words, and reducing harm. That too can be exhausting. Peoply, the world is very peoply. It can be exhausting in the face of people-y. The truth is that the forces of injustice ought to be challenged. Yeah? Yes, ought to be challenged in church as well as in society. Ought to be challenged by those of us not afraid to speak out. But guess what? That's exhausting too, and we are often not supported. Often not supported in naming what we see. Yeah, this is why I've had such fun in life, because I go around saying, I see this. Do you see this? Not everybody wants to have that conversation. Check that. Most people don't want to have that conversation. And in church, the truth is we need each other. Church needs each one of us. Community needs us to be as fully and as holy, W-H-O-L-E, wholly present. All right, H-O-L-Y too. Wholly present all the time. And you can work yourself into that if other folks are doing it, if you are allowed and you allow them to be wholly present. Yeah? Because then we're not alone. And then it's not as exhausting. And then much is more doable because we have each other speaking the truth. Kindly. All right, Gabe, so much better at that than I am. Just like do his way. Graciously. All right, how many of you, I know, interactive Kyle, how many of you have visited the UU of Honolulu webpage in the last week? Holy cow, wow. That's impressive. That's a lot of hands. I don't know about you at home who are worshiping with us. Did you raise your hands? But like almost half the room raised their hands. The quotes, do you read the quotes? Or do you just like click the link to go to the meeting? Yeah, sometimes I'm hearing, sort of. Yes. So sometimes. Lifelong Unitarian, working with others here at church to change the world in ways I cannot do by myself. Hello, testimony. Rock on. I'm not going to read all of these. Okay. One last meme and one last thought. The last meme is, ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets inside of them. Ooh. Moral of the story, don't let what is happening around you get inside of you and weigh you down. And finally, I'm going to leave you with X is less than the last page by Barbara Brown Taylor in her book, Leaving Church. Highly recommend the book. Barbara Brown Taylor says, I thought that being faithful was about becoming someone other than who I was. And it was not until this project failed that I began to wonder if my human wholeness might be more useful to God than my exhausting goodness. In the midst of our emotional and physical and spiritual and bodily exhaustion, if you haven't admitted it to yourself yet, check in with your body. It will tell you. In the midst of that, we are nonetheless called to think and feel. Is what we are being told and how we're being molded good for us and the world, or a pithy saying that takes us down to the depths of not helpful? We get to decide for ourselves. Kenye hiratson, may that be so. Amen.